Actually, the main consumer in water sector is basically irrigation sector, and uh, we will be discussing how this sector has developed over the time and what was the role of Central Water Commission in this particular aspect. So my presentation will cover all these 4 points basically. What is the need of irrigation in the country, how it has developed, and what are the role of CWC, what are the future role or initiative of CWC in direction. So as you all know that the water which is available in our country is having very high temporal and spatial variation. कल आपको बताया, yesterday you might have been told about this, that temporally also, because most of the rainfall falls in 3 to 4 months of the year, and rest of the time the rainfall is almost negligible. But the demand for crops, the crop demand are distributed almost throughout the year. We have somewhere we have 2 cropping seasons. So the demand for water for crops is basically distributed throughout the year. So whenever there is no rainfall, the need for crop is to be met by irrigation. So we provide irrigation water. This is basically manifested through prior to independence. We had very less irrigation developed in the country. So there were frequent droughts, frequent famines reported in the history. So providing irrigation is one of the necessary requirement to sustain a sustainable agriculture. So how actually we are providing irrigation? Basically, we have 2 sources for irrigation. The first source is groundwater and the another source is surface water. So groundwater is basically we provide irrigation through either dug well or through shallow or medium tube well are also there. In hilly areas, we have spring which supports to some extent irrigation in those areas. So, and the another source is the surface water. From surface water, we are basically drawing directly from some water bodies, some river or lakes, whichever is nearby. And then there are certain intervention in form of small storages. We are constructing check dams, we are constructing small structures, tanks, and from there we are getting the water either through gravity and to some extent through lift also, by giving well or maybe some manual means of lifting also. Then we have basically on institutional basis, we have large reservoir, and from through we are supplying water in canals, through canals and pipe system. Nowadays we are basically using pipe system. So from there we are providing water to consumer who are distributed throughout the country. Before we go further, I actually wanted to just give an overview that the projects which we are taking, depending upon the size of project, we categorize into 2 or 3 categories. First is basically minor irrigation. We categorize that with the cultural command area. The area which is being covered by that particular structure is, if that is less than 2,000 hectares, then we say that this is a minor irrigation scheme. If it is between 2,000 to 10,000, we say this is a medium irrigation scheme, and beyond that is called major irrigation scheme. So minor irrigation scheme is basically serviced by either surface water or groundwater. And we have made basically assessment of ultimate irrigation potential. That means that whatever means we use, how much maximum area we can irrigate through particular source is called ultimate irrigation potential. So by surface water minor irrigation, we can cover in the entire country an area of about 17 million hectares, while through groundwater we can cover an area of about 64 million. Here I must tell you that the ultimate irrigation potential in the country is something of the order of 140 million. So these are basically the ultimate irrigation which is being serviced by surface minor irrigation and groundwater minor irrigation. And surface water minor irrigation, they are mainly supported by government, and investment on that is basically done. And whereas minor irrigation to groundwater is concerned, the major investment in this particular area is to private source. Farmers are putting pumps in their field and they are irrigating their areas. So most of the investment in groundwater minor irrigation is through private sources. Say, for example, farmers are doing, or some small companies are basically investing. As far as surface water is concerned, major and medium are concerned, they are basically being serviced by surface water. We are constructing either a diversion structure from which we divert water into a particular canal, or even we are also having big storages through dams and all this thing. And then we are distributing water from there as per the need of the area. So this basically the irrigation which we provide through surface irrigation has a greater dependability, because in minor irrigation, if you don't have good rains, or if you don't have good rains in the area, the storages which are created either in check dams, or this thing is very less, or the uh, replenishment of groundwater is less. So the dependability on minor is very less, whereas dependability on major are more. It is around 75 to 90%. That means we are sure that this much, with this dependability, we can provide the water to any particular field. So, as far as our assessment, the ultimate irrigation potential through major and medium projects are of the order of 58 million. And as I said, since this involves very big structures, so the investment in this particular major and medium irrigation projects are mainly done by government. As you all know, irrigation is being practiced in our country from very past. Even we have records of inundation canals being constructed during the Indus civilization area, and ruins of many ancient irrigation projects are found scattered all over the country. Many such intervention was done by various rulers during their visiting to support irrigation in this area. Some of very important structures I can mention is that one is near Hampi. You can find many such works over there. Hampi, basically. Uh, So there are many such works which are scattered over there. You can see. So during past, it was mainly through ponds that things were basically constructing ponds at different places to support irrigation, or at maximum through inundation channel, the channels which take off from any of the river and they basically irrigate lands. So the earliest example of any big system is basically that Grand Anicut of Kaveri River. That was developed something around the first century. This particular system was developed for irrigating the delta area of Kaveri. Thereafter, many rulers have done good works. There are few notable investments done by Ghyasuddin Tughlaq. These canals in this area, Delhi and about area, these are being done, created by either Ghyasuddin Tughlaq or Firoz Tughlaq. Then we have good example of canals being constructed in Vijayanagar Empire. So these are few notable investment which was done in past, but mostly it was very unsystematic. There was no study as such regarding how much water is to be provided. It was only when a demand is generated at some place because of some or other reason, some investment was done by some of the kings at that time. So it has resulted in successive famines. If you see the past history, India has faced many famines. Almost in every century, we have faced famines. Very great famines. I would say. So the first systematic approach in this area was made during the British in 1901. It was basically they have constituted this first irrigation commission. Uh, Earlier to that, it was basically a drought was faced and a famine was faced something around 1850, which basically uh, 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 alerted British government to do something because there was huge loss of revenue during those times. So at that time, British felt that we have to go for a systematic irrigation in the country if we want to sustain agriculture in a sustainable manner. Do agriculture in a sustainable manner. So during 1850 and onwards, they have created many structures. Some of these structures I will mention over here. The Upper Ganga Canal, the Upper Bari Doab, UBDC we say today. The Krishna and the Godavari Delta system were developed. The Sarhind Canal was developed at that time. Lower Ganga Canal, the Agra Canal, there are many. The Mullah Periyar Dam was constructed during those periods. So they have made many this thing. And after going for these structures, they felt that there is a need that we should study these particular irrigation subject in a very detail. So they have constituted the first irrigation commission in 1901. But the main purpose of development of irrigation by the British was basically they were developing in only those areas from which they can get good revenue. Revenue was basically the driving force for the investment made by the British. So the rate of irrigation was also the development of irrigation was also very slow. So and it was not basically for the welfare of people. It was basically to sustain the revenue, which because India is basically a agriculture country. So revenue from agriculture was a very big source for the British. So when due to this famine and all these things, there was many times there was a shortfall of revenue by the British government. So they invested some this thing in irrigation. So at the time of independence, 1947 basically, the entire Indian subcontinent, including whatever the area is in Pakistan today is, that was something of the order of 28 million hectares. The irrigation structures which were created at that time was basically 28 million. And after partition, a large chunk of this particular irrigated area went to Pakistan. And the area which was left with India is something of the order of only 9.4 million. Although you can see the difference is not that much in figures, but since the area of India is very large compared to Pakistan, so the proportionally it was very less. The irrigated area which we received was very less, and that is why we had faced many many problems during those days. The annual food production at that time was something of the order of 50 million tons, and which was very inadequate for the population of 360. So we were we were dependent upon imports from other countries, and also on some humanitarian this thing also, because at that time, as per records, the revenue which we were having, the foreign reserve which we were having, was not sufficient to import this thing, food grains from other. This thing. So somebody has raised hand. If want to ask question, he can just unmute and say. Hello. So I could see somebody is raising hand. If you want to say something, you can just unmute and say, Mr. Mahesh. So at the time of independence, basically we were having less production, annual food production, which was not sufficient for our population. So it was felt that self-sufficiency in food production will be of paramount importance. If we want to develop, we should have self-sufficiency in food. So at that time, it was felt that unless we go for irrigated agriculture to a great extent, it will not be possible for have to have food security and poverty. So the irrigation was given due importance during those times. And immediately after independence, we have initiated many big projects. Say, for example, Bhakra Nangal, which was initiated in 1948. Then Damodar Valley projects, although Damodar Valley project initially was meant for basically flood management in that area, but later it was felt that if we couple, so Damodar Valley project was basically one of the first multi-purpose development in our country. So we thought that if we couple the same with irrigation and other benefit also, it will be beneficial for the country. So TVC was taken up, Hirakud Dam was taken up that time. So immediately we started many irrigation projects so that we can support irrigation, we can provide irrigation, and we can have good production of food. So the systematic planning basically in our country started with 5-year plan. Initially, we started these projects, but the systematic planning started with 5-year plan. Since irrigation projects are very huge projects, so and demand for irrigation was from entire country. So it was very basically we had to go for some sort of prioritization at that time, so that we can have better output from less investment. So at that time, planning commission was entrusted the responsibility, and uh, it was felt that only those projects which are technically economically sound should be taken, so that we have a good return from the investment which are being done at that. Since there were many projects which has interstate ramification that was not that was being shared by one or two states. So initially, it was felt that those projects which are free from interstate problem. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have that problem. It has amicably this thing that amicably understanding between the two states for reaping the benefit. They don't have any problem with those. Those projects should be taken. And also, it was kept in mind that there is a balanced development for the entire country. It is not that one particular region should get the development. It should be distributed among the entire country. So it was decided that only those projects at that time the state government used to submit their projects to planning commission, and only those projects which were accepted by planning commission were taken up for implementation. So, as I said, the first irrigation commission came during the British rule. In 1972, we felt that there is a need that we should study the subject in a very comprehensive manner and come with a roadmap for further development. In irrigation. So, the second irrigation commission was basically constituted in 1972, which came up with its reports. Many these things were made, many suggestions were made, which were implemented later. So if we see the development during the 5-year plan, the first 5-year plan, during that we have taken many new projects. The names are given here. Nagarjun Sagar was started, Kosi project was taken up, Chambal, Harike Barak project, Tungabhadra, Bhadra Gata Prabha, Kakrapara, Lower Khamani. Many such irrigation projects was taken up in the entire country. And some areas which can be covered through minor irrigation also, those were also provided financial assistance from the government. So that development should take place in a balanced manner in the entire country. During the second 5-year plan, many more projects were taken up. Say, for example, in Rangani Kalan in Rajasthan, the Gandak project and Tawa project, the Parambi Kulam Aliyar project, the Bini project, Kansavati, Katana, Ukai, many these projects, Koina, Puna, Girna, Khadak Wasla, that was actually Khadak Wasla was there during the British this thing, but during Indian this thing, a big dam was created over there for having a good storage over there. So the system of dam which is available there in the Maharashtra, they were taken up in. second 5-year plan. With the completion of 2 5-year plan, it was felt that we have taken up many projects, but they are not getting completed. So emphasis was given on completion of those projects, whatever were taken during the first and second plan. A greater emphasis was given that these projects should be completed so that we can have benefit, drawing benefit from them in full benefit from them. Some benefit they were drawing, but not the benefit were being drawn. So it was felt that these projects should be completed. Emphasis should be given rather than taking more projects, new projects. Emphasis was given on completion of these projects. And only few new projects were taken. Like for example, Vyas project, Malaprabha, Upper Krishna, Jaikavari Krishna, Godavari, etc. in Maharashtra. Only few projects were taken up during the third 5-year plan and annual plan thereafter. Then during 5-year plan, the new project was almost restricted. No new projects were taken. It was basically that the emphasis was given to ongoing projects. And by that time, we started feeling that whatever structures we have created, they are not basically efficiently managed. That means whatever design area which was to be whatever we have designed that this will serve to that much area, that was basically not coming up because of some or other reason. So it was felt that we should give our emphasis on basically efficient management of these projects so that the benefit which we have expected from these projects would be drawn. So by the end of this thing, as I said, the Second Irrigation Commission was also constituted during that time, and they have had deliberated on various issues, and they came up with many suggestions which were implemented. One of these suggestions was basically what I was saying, that it was felt that whatever potential which has been created, by creation of potential means that the large structures which have been constructed from which we can have that much of irrigation is basically we say that potential has been created. But these structure itself cannot convey water to the fields. It is basically that from the outlet of this structure, we have to have a system of field channels by which we take the water to the field. So that development was lagging in the entire country. And for that reason, the potential which was created, the dams were created, but it was not being used. It was not being utilized basically. And the gap between the irrigation potential creation and utilization that started to grow. So a very concern was this thing was made by the Irrigation Commission that we should have to give a greater emphasis on utilization of potential. And for that, it was suggested that we should come up with a command area development. As if I just explain a structure, a dam is created, and through dam we have main canals which take the water to many areas. So there are some main canals also, there are some branch canals. Then we have outlets on these branches. If you compare with your water supply system in your state, you have a system which is being put up by municipality to take water to up to your house. Then from that you have to take a connection, and then you have pipes in your house to have water in different areas of your house. If you don't invest in that particular district, if you don't get a connection, you cannot have water in it. So similarly, in case of irrigation sector also, the structures were created up to this outlet. But since the structure from outlet to field was absent, basically this was earlier felt that people will invest in this particular area and they will do those investment, and through field channels they can take the water to their field. But that basically didn't the general public didn't came up with so investment on this structure. So there was gap in irrigation potential creation. So government felt that we should have a program where we should financially support this also, the construction of field channel, which was very necessary to reap the benefit of this potential which was created. So a command area development program was launched in the country in, I think, the end of 74 and the start of 75. And through that program, many these things works. Say, for example, construction of channels from outlet to field, then leveling of field, because until and unless the field is leveled, you cannot get the benefit from this irrigation through the surface water, because water has to be distributed to the entire field, and if the field is not level, so leveling of field works was also taken. Then a lot of capacity building was done, because these channels are basically in the field of farmers. So they have to take care of these structures. So these are basically very temporary structure which has a life of say 4 to 5 years. So until and unless there is a system which is basically maintained by those farmers in that area, you will not be one will not be able to have a sustainable sustainable result from these structures. So capacity building was done so that people should realize their duties and they should take care of these structure in their field, so that the potential which has been created through these could be utilized. So a lot of such things were taken. At this time only, it was also felt. Right? This time only, it was also felt that we need to, because we have started many projects in the first, second, third, and fourth year plan. But it was found that these projects are not getting completed because of some of other reasons. There were some problems in, say, for example, land acquisition problem was there. There was technical problem was there in many of the projects. The availability of funds was also a problem. The projects were not getting adequate fund. Individual projects were not getting. There were so many problems. So what was felt that we should have a system of monitoring of projects basically, so that all these bottlenecks can be overcome. Three-tier monitoring was envisaged, in which there was to they have to have a monitoring mechanism at the project level, so that they should monitor the project, how it is going on, what problem is being faced, and they come up with recommendation, and those recommendations were given to the state government, so that project could be completed in a time bound. Then there was a mechanism supposed to be there at state level, so that the state should have a monitoring of all the projects which are being implemented at that time in the state. So the state level monitoring mechanism was to be there. There was, yes, madam. Hello, hello. Hello. Somebody are raising hand. It is by mistake or they want to say something. Hello. I am audible. Hello.
Sir, you are audible. I think by mistake,
Ah.
by mistake she has raised the hand.
Sir, you are audible.
Okay. Okay. So we felt that there should be a systematic monitoring of project. And as I said, there were two levels, one at project and one at state level, and there was also a level at the union level. We had a system of monitoring of some big identified project through at central level, and this particular responsibility was basically given to Central Water Commission. The field organizations were started at that time, so that we can identify a few projects which are very big, and we could have a systematic monitoring of those projects, try to find out what are the bottlenecks over there. So in this way, the main aim basically was that the project should be completed in a time bound, because the project which were to be completed in say 4 or 5 or 6 years, it was taking 10 years or more for completion. So it was felt that there should be a system of monitoring. So this monitoring system was basically initiated in 1976, and then we went ahead with 6, 7, 5, 8 year plan. Many new projects were also taken. Few projects were taken. emphasis basically was made on completion. So by the end of say 8 5 year plan, it was felt that many states will require some financial support to complete it. It was getting beyond their financial capacity to complete those projects. So there were a large number of projects where the progress was more than 70 or 80%, but they were not getting completed. So at the end of 8 5 year plan, we started this accelerated irrigation benefit program, through which central government tried to support some of the projects which were near completion, so that these could be completed and we start getting benefits from it. So the AIBP was basically started in 1996. By the end of 98 5 year plan, we have started AIBP, and we were providing, initially we were providing as a loan to the state government, but later it was felt that this loan should be converted into grant. So now we are continuing, still we are continuing that AIBP, and we are providing grant to the state for those projects which are near completion, which can be completed with some financial support. So this is how we started AIBP in 8 5 year. Then later, during 10th 5 year plan, it was felt that due to development of surface irrigation, as well as due to development of irrigation through pumps, the water bodies which was there, which was there and was having a very great contribution in providing irrigation to those areas which were not covered at that time by this irrigation, are basically getting neglected, and we are losing a lot of irrigation potential through basically neglect of those water bodies. These water bodies were getting encroached. People were using to dump their waste in that water body. So whatever benefit which we were getting at that time through the water bodies was getting lost. Something of the order of 1 million hectare of irrigation, it was estimated at that time, was lost due to this encroachment and other things. So the government came up with a program for renovation and restoration of such water body in 10th 5 year. We had a program which for those water bodies which were having irrigation benefits. It was not for entire water body. It was basically for those water bodies which were having irrigation benefit. Those were being restored so that the irrigation potential which was lost because of encroachment and filling up those water bodies could be restored. So by the end of 10th 5 year plan, we came up with this project. Then there was another development during 11th 5 year plan. During 11th 5 year plan, we thought that there are few projects which are having greater benefit. But since these projects are situated in one or two states, the extent of projects was not within a state, this was in one or two states. Or maybe some project was having some international implications. So government felt that we should initiate a program specifically for such projects which were having benefit. Say, for example, as far as CCA was concerned, it was taken that if that particular is having a benefit of 2 lakh or more hectare or more from a particular project, then we can take those projects as national projects and then complete them. So at that time, government basically identified some 14 or 15 projects which were of having this particular categorization, and thought of making efforts for taking up those projects so that that can be completed and we could draw benefit from them. Some few more projects was included in that particular national project category. And as on date, we have 16 national projects which are being implemented by central government with the intervention of central government. Then during 12th 5 year plan, it was felt that the efforts which were made by central government are scattered in various ministries. At that time, many ministries were taking projects. Say, for example, in our ministry, we were having AIBP for completion of project, for implementation of project. We were having command area development program, which was meant for basically development of command. Then we also had this RR of water bodies through which we were providing we were trying to restore the irrigation which we were getting from water bodies. Then under Ministry of Agriculture, there was a program for supporting micro irrigation. Basically, micro irrigation is very much required to have a better efficiency from this thing, for projects for field application. So we started micro irrigation project at that time. We were supporting micro irrigation project through Ministry of Agriculture. Then we had a lot of work being done under the Ministry of Rural Development for water conservation. So it was felt that all these projects should be we should have a united umbrella for all these projects, and all these projects should supplement each other rather than having development in a scattered manner. They should. It was, and at that time, this Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana was launched, and basically that particular scheme was basically to have an integrated approach from all these efforts which were made by the government. We should have plans at district level. We should have plans at state level. We should plan at national level, and the irrigation should be developed as per those plans. All these projects, all these schemes should supplement each other, so that irrigation can be developed in an integrated manner. So this Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana was launched in 2015, and the basic motto for this was to have to provide water, some sort of protective irrigation to entire area which is under this thing cultivation. And then the second was to have more crop from per drop. That means the efficiency, the water productivity should grow. Earlier, when during the earlier age, this motto was not there. We wanted more crops, but whether they are consuming more or water or not, that was not the aim. That was not basically the focus. So at that time, we thought of coming with this concept of per crop more crop, so that the water productivity should be high, so that we can cover more area. As I said, as you know in the earlier presentation also, that 80% of water is being used by agriculture, and the water efficiency in agriculture is very low. The water use efficiency is of the order of average, you can say 40%, 35 to 40%. And the international standard is that we can go up to 70 to 80% very easily by applying new technologies, by applying better water application, by having by maintaining the structure and all these things. So you can see with the same water, there is an option of doubling the irrigation, doubling the coverage. We can provide water to more areas if we go through such type of advanced technique and we increase our efficiency. So the basic purpose of this particular Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana was that too, if we can grow more crop from the same drop of water, we can have more field, we can take more field under coverage. So during first plan, this Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana was taken by the country. So if I sum up this entire thing in one slide, I can say that at present we have almost cultivable area, total cultivable area of the order of 182 million hectares. So this is basically, when we say cultivable area, this is the physical area which is available for cultivation. So a lot of area are not being cultivated every year, but this much area, some cultivation can be done. And as I said, the ultimate irrigation potential is of the order of 140 million hectares. So we can provide irrigation with that much field. So, but if we see at present, and not at present, this particular figure is a little bit old because these figures come up with, there is a lag in getting this figure from states. So by the end of March 17, that is by the end of 12th plan, we actually created potential of the order of 126.7 billion. And if you see the gross sown area, as I said, since entire area is not being sown, and other fact is that there are many areas which are sown twice in a year, maybe thrice in a year. So actual sown area is more than what is physical area which is available. So during March 14, as per agriculture, the gross sown area was 200 million hectare approximately. And out of which almost 50% was gross irrigated area. We were providing irrigation to these areas. But if you want to compare the figure of total cultivated area to this thing, then we have a figure called net sown area. That means this much area is physically being sown. Some of the area may be getting sown twice or thrice, or whatever may be the condition. So the net sown area, if you see the physical listing, the net sown area is of the order of 140 million. And out of this, the net irrigated area, that means the irrigation is available. We have this irrigation facility that is of the order of 68 million. So this is the development that we have achieved till date. And as you can see, a lot is required to be done in future also to sustain our this thing. Since population is getting increased, our demand for food is also getting increased. So as per this thing, as per estimate done by National Commission, we have to increase our food production to about 450 million metric ton, so that we can feed our population during at the time as per in the year 2050 basically. It is felt that by that time our population will get stabilized and it will not increase further. So we are basically planning for 2050, and by that time we need to have these irrigation potential get developed and utilized also. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to sustain the entire population. Right now, we are in a comfortable position. We are not only growing for our entire population, but we are to some extent some amount of export is also there. So at present, our position is very comfortable, but we have to continue this pace of development so that we can support our population by the end of 2050, by which it is felt, it is estimated that our population will get stabilized. So we are planning for 2050 basically. Yes. Now I will tell you something about what role CWC has been provided in basically developing these irrigation in the country. As you know, as per the constitutional arrangement, the responsibility of actually implementing or designing or planning this project lies with the state. State government have to implement or plan and implement and operate the structures in their respective jurisdiction. But central government, the role of central government is just limited to catalytic district. That we are promoting these states to develop irrigation potential, which states are lagging behind. We are also financially supporting them, so that irrigation could be developed in a equitable manner in the entire country. So the role of central government is basically a catalytic role, a promotional role, as well as to some extent a adjugatory role. We are basically coordinating this. If a project is lying has a coverage in more than one state, we are basically coordinating this aspect. If there is any dispute among the state, we are basically adjugating those disputes so that a negotiation could be arrived and these projects could be implemented. So the role of central government is limited to coordination, promotion, as well as education. So in this background, basically, if you go a little bit back in the British era, the role of this role was basically defined in the Government of India Act 1935, in 1919 also, and 1935 also. And as per that act, the subject of water basically was basically allocated to provincial. Provincial government was given this subject. The role of central government was basically only as a referee or as a negotiator. If there is any dispute among these two, so this can be. So by the end of say by the after this Second World War, the development which took place in our this thing, that people started thinking that the work which are being done by the state government alone are not sufficient. First of all, they need some sort of coordination, some sort of technical help, because the expertise which were available with the government, many of the government was limited. Say, for example, if a project is to be, if the source of the project, if we are going for a medium or major irrigation, it is possible that the dams which are to be constructed is in an area different from that state, and that particular government don't have that expertise. So there was a need that a central body should be there. A need was felt that a central body should be there who should go into various aspects and advise all the government, say for example, central government, state government, advise all the governments with respect to matter related to irrigation, so how they can develop. So the need was felt in the country by the end of, I think, after Second World War, this need started growing. So in 1945, basically it was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. At that time, he was basically, I think, in this thing, Viceroy Council. He was member of Viceroy Council in Labour, and at that time, basically, Labour Ministry was looking after the subject of irrigation. And there was at that time only a very small setup in the government in the form of a consulting engineer was available there, who used to advise the government regarding matter related to irrigation. So it was felt that we need to have an institutional arrangement for having that particular system. So a task was given to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and he came up with the concept of Central Water Commission. Basically, at that time, it was basically called the Central Waterways Irrigation and Navigation. So he basically conceptualized this, and the concept which was the basic salient feature of that concept was that this particular body should be available to provide advice on technical matter to all the government, central government, state government, whoever at that time. Provincial, I am writing because at that time it was called provincial government, basically. So this body should be available to for advice to all this government. Then, as I told you that the central government has to had a role of referee in this particular area also. So there was many dispute arising at that time only. So if there is any dispute on the matter, this body can help central government or state government for amicably solution of those disputes. So then another, I think somebody mic is open and it is causing an echo. Hello. Someone mic is open and which is causing echo. I think that is solved. Okay. So at that time, that particular body, it was expected from that particular body that it will have a role of a negotiator in handling this dispute, and it can give whenever a dispute is there, that body should be able to give an unbiased opinion that what could be done in this matter. So this sort of help was also there, and it was felt that this body, at that time, there were many works going on in the entire country. So there has to be somebody who can go through these works, and the expertise which is getting developed in implementing this could be used by others also. So a body should be there who can study these things and come up with guidelines, manual, and all these things, so that these can be used by all others in implementation of these projects. It will be the experience which was gained in one particular state should reach the other state. So these were basically the concept at that time which was felt in basically forming, constituting this particular Central Water Commission. And this commission was basically established in 1945. So later on, the commission has changed. It has taken up many areas. It has the commission has played a very important role in almost all aspects of water resources. Say, for example, I have noted down that planning of water resources. Until and unless you have a good plan for implementing, this is a very vast area. The investment required is very high, and you should have a better output from this investment. So a better planning is needed where you can take up water resources development, or where you can take up dams and all these things. This was very important for an entire overview of entire country was necessary. So planning of water resources development was taken up as a water. Then there were many states at that time who were not capable of taking projects, but there was a huge potential available in the particular state. So Central Water Commission supported that state by survey and investigation of project. We have prepared project reports for them so that that can be implemented when accepted. Then design of the project. Many states were not having that much of capability at that time. So Central Water Commission also supported through design of project. Even today also Central Water Commission is providing this help to the state government. Technical advice on problematic area. If particular government is facing some problem in implementation or even construction of any project, they can come up. They come up to Central Water Commission. We study those problems and provide them solution for that, so that they can implement that solution for problem solving the problem. Then, as I said in my earlier slide also, that planning commission was entrusted with the responsibility of ensuring the technical economic viability of project. So this basically what basically the technical help in this regard to planning commission was given by Central Water Commission. Firstly, when there was very less project, there was a small body in a small committee in planning commission consisting of members from planning commission, from some experts also, and the chief engineer from Central Water Commission at that time. And they used to examine those projects. Those projects were basically getting examined in Central Water Commission, and the technical economic viability of project was basically uh, 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 approved by Central Water Commission. And only after this technical examination project were taken. Then, when the responsibility of monitoring was taken, felt, the need for monitoring was felt in 1976. So, Central Water Commission started monitoring of the projects. Some I can tell you at sometimes there were something 40 or 50 projects being monitored in those times. Right now, it is very the number of projects are very high. But at that time, also some 40, 50 projects were being monitored by Central Water Commission. The people from Central Water Commission used to visit this project, try to find out what are the problems which are being faced by the project, why it is not getting construction, and why it's not held up. So all these aspects were examined, then suitable advice was given for solving those problems. Later, in 1980, it was felt at that time we had large number of projects created in our country. Many dams were constructed. As you can understand that these dams, they are providing a good distinct facility to people, but at the same time, they also possess a lot of hazard. In case a dam fails, it creates huge devastation in the downstream. So it was felt at that time after I think the event of Machu Dam in Gujarat, which was failed and it caused a lot of devastation in that particular area. It was felt that we should also ensure the safety of these projects. We should have a system by which a safety of this project is also ensured. The projects which are getting old, if that are not maintained properly, it can cause devastation. So a safety assurance was a need for ensuring safety assurance of project was also. And there also Central Water Commission came with this thing, unit. It was called Dam Safety Unit at that time. And that particular unit started looking into the subject. We had made many guidelines how this safety insurance should be done. What are the steps which are to be taken so that you can ensure a safety of this project? And we promoted the state governments to getting such type of body within their state so that the project which are there in that particular state that can be safely maintained so that it should not cause any harm to any population because of failure of project. Then it was felt that whatever projects we are taking, whether these projects are having those benefits, are delivering those benefits or not. So a need was felt that we should have a system of evaluation of such projects. So Central Water Commission came up with a branch for evaluating the. We have evaluated many projects. There are some 200, 100 to 150 projects have been evaluated to see that whether these projects have served their purpose or not. So a lot of activity were taken up. I will just briefly go through these activities. I have the slides are available with you. I just briefly go through activities because we have less time available with us. So, for example, if we see the planning aspect, whatever planning. So the role which CWC has, that CWC take up assessment of water resources. Until and unless you have a measurement of any quantity, you cannot plan. So Central Water Commission was given the responsibility of assessing the water resources availability in the country. We have done this exercise 2 or 3 times in the past, and we came up with the figure that this much is available with us. Central Water Commission is actively associated with Planning Commission in its various committee, working groups, and the formation of successive plan for the successive plan period was helped. We provided all sorts of technical help to Planning Commission taking up this exercise. Then in 1980, we came up with a national perspective. So, as per this, it was felt there are many areas where we have more potential available, but the use of those potential is not there. So this excessive resources which is available at one place can be used in other places. So we came up with a plan which we say National Perspective Plan. The name you now see that plan is called is interlinking of river basically. It was basically to get the water which is available in surplus area to the benefit of areas which is having less water. So that plan was basically prepared, formulated in Central Water Commission. Then we had national water policy, and Central Water Commission provided a very good role, very effective role in formation of all these policies. Then, as I said, nowadays it is felt that the water resources should be planned in an integrated manner. And for that purpose, a commission was formed in 1996, which went into various aspects and given its recommendation for how to manage the water resources in an integrated manner. And CWC has actively participated in formation of those. Then after that, we are now taking integrated water resources studies in the areas. So all sort of studies are being taken in this particular area by Central Water Commission. Then another important aspect with respect to this is that we are collecting hydrometeorological data, and these data are very much needed for planning of water resources in the country. We are collecting such type of data at not less than 1,600 places, and they basically form the basis of planning of water resources project. We are publishing this data, the Central Water Commission is publishing these data in forms of yearbooks which are being utilized by state government. The data are being utilized by state government for planning of projects. These data are also available in form of India Varis. Earlier it was India Varis. Now this is being further redeveloped and it will now be available as Water Information Management System. It is now available in that form. Then I said the design consultancy. We have supported states for planning of projects, for design of projects, for providing consultancy for any troubleshooting, whatever problem is there, in standardization of engineering practices, and very special studies, dam break and other things. These type of things we have supported the state government. At present, also I can say there are more than 70 projects for which design consultancy is being provided by central government. These are some of the projects which these are only few, I think, which important projects in which CWC was involved to a very large extent. Then I said the survey and investigation of projects, survey of investigation are support are provided to those states who are not capable of formulating the DPRs. So nowadays, some of the northeastern states, Jharkhand and Jammu Kashmir, these are the states which are taking help from Central Water Commission in getting their DPR formulated. We are also supporting Nepal and Bhutan. Many projects are being investigated in Nepal and Bhutan also. Then I said techno-economic appraisal. This is being done since 1954. We are supporting planning commission in this regard. Now also we are basically appraising the project of major medium type, which is having interstate ramification. And then flood management projects are also being examined. Large flood management projects, we categorize them in minor, medium, and large. So large projects are being appraised by Central Water Commission. We are also providing support to CEA in basically our examination of hydro projects. These hydro projects are the projects which are specifically made for hydroelectric production. These are being looked after the Central Electricity Authority. So we are basically examining the civil aspect, the technical aspect, the dam which is proposed, the structures we have proposed to CA in examination of those. So since 1976, by this 1976, in fact, earlier from 1954 to 1976, CWC was involved as a committee under Planning Commission. In 1976, a technical advisory committee of Ministry of Water Resources at that time was formed, and CWC is CWC was given the responsibility of having a secretariat of that particular technical advisory committee. So since 1976, we are maintaining the record, and more than 1,500 irrigation projects, flood management projects have been appraised by Central Water Commission. Then from 1975 onwards, we are providing support in monitoring of the projects. Right now, the projects which are monitored is basically some of the major projects which are being implemented by state. All the projects which are getting support, financial support from Ministry of Water Central Government are being monitored by Central Water Commission. It is basically the implementation of projects. It is command area work. It is flood management project. If it is an externally aided project, also we are doing monitoring on request basis. If the World Bank or any agency is saying that we should go for monitoring, we are providing for that also. On sample basis, we are also monitoring the implementation of RR of water bodies specifically and CAT projects. So all these things are being monitored by CWK to some extent. We are also, Central Water Commission is also using the web-based monitoring service with the help of NRSC. Now we have the association with one agency. Remember the name right now. So we are basically trying to monitor these projects through satellite images also. What is the progress under them? And the central funding to the state is basically provided after the recommendation of Central Water Commission. After we monitor the project, and if we say that okay, this project is satisfactorily working, then the funds are released to the state. Then interstate coordination to say whenever a dispute is there, we are basically providing, we are supporting negotiation process to arrive at an amicable solution. If amicable solution is not arrived, then tribunals are formed. We are supporting tribunals in technically supporting tribunals also. There are many interesting boards have been constituted in the country for various purposes. So we are basically participating in those in the activities of those boards also. Wherever any unbiased view is needed by these boards, these are being studied and provided to that particular body. So we are also maintaining a very good this thing of we are maintaining a compendium of interstate agreements. We are coming up with this thing. Whatever interstate agreement has been arrived in the country, those are being maintained in a good publication, which is available in Central Water Commission. You can see this publication on the website of Central Water Commission. Then whatever international cooperation in the field of water resources is needed, we have to have some exchange with Nepal, we have to have some dialogue with Bangladesh and Pakistan also. So in all these negotiations or all these activities, the technical help to the ministry is provided. So whenever there is a need of any technical help, ministry is basically looking forward to support. And we are basically participating in various committees, joint level committees are there, through which exchange of data is taking place, exchange of technology is taking place. We are, as I said, we are helping Nepal and Bhutan in project preparation and even implementation also. As I said, safety assurance, the dam safety units was created in 1979. And we have, since there are something around more than 5,000 dams in the country. So ensuring this safety is also a very huge task. So we are basically trying to have a framework within our country so that the safety of these dams could be ensured. So we are also coordinating a program called Dam Rehabilitation and Improvement Program, in which many dams which are in not a good condition, these are being rehabilitated with the support of World Bank. So we are coordinating that particular scheme also. Under that program, we have came up with many guidelines, which is necessary for ensuring the safety of these dams. These are guidelines for instrumentation in dams. These are guidelines for how you have to ensure inspection of dam. What are the rehabilitation when you have many guidelines have been prepared under this program, which is helpful to the state in maintaining the safety of these projects. Then, as I said, technology transfer and capacity building. The National Water Commission, National Water Academy, which is basically imparting training to various professionals in this area, is basically under Central Water Commission. And under this activity, we are providing. Earlier, we were limited only to service engineers in the state or central government. Now we are providing training to even teachers and other organizations also, so that awareness in water sector could be raised. CWC has came up with large number of publications, large number of guidelines, large number of handbooks, which are being used by the state for the design and maintenance and operation of dams. Central Water Commission is also involved in with BIS in making and finalization of the training. I already mentioned. Yeah, this network academy is taking up almost 40 to 50 training every year, so that the awareness in the field of water resources could be raised. Apart from training to resource professionals in central and state government for upgradation of their skills. These are some notable, as I said, remote sensing was remote sensing technology was developed. We started using remote sensing technology since 1979, and we are trying to. Central Water Commission is trying to promote states in more and more use of remote sensing technology. IWRM, as I said, is now talk of the this thing. IWRM is very needed for management of water resources because there are many types of demand. There the resources is limited until and unless we supplement all these things through IWRM. it will not be possible for us to satisfy the demands of all the sectors. So for that purpose, system engineering projects were set up in 1982, which is now called Basin Planning Management Organization, which is supporting IWR, and we are providing support in forms of tools. We are developing tools for use in the state for scenario generation and all this through IWRM studies. Then, as I said, a lot number of codes and guidelines were prepared by CWC. We are involved in preparing the IS codes also. A few words about what future will be there, what future role will be there of central water pollution in the irrigation sector. As I said, the optimal use of resources is needed so that we can cover the entire area. We don't have water resources is not less in our country, but since it is not managed properly, it is being wastefully managed. So we are not, there are many areas which are not getting the proper water resources benefits. So through water budgeting is basically a tool by which we try to find out how much water is being used by any sector, whether that use is okay, that is optimal or not, what are the saving which can be done over there. So all these aspect comes under water budget. So we are trying to form water budget. We are in the process of doing that. Let us hope in future we will be able to find out these things. We will be able to use this particular tool in a greater manner. Then water auditing, as I said, it is a specialized thing that whether how much water is being wastefully used. Until and unless we try find out those things, it will not be possible for us to save water. So we do basically water audit for, we try to find out how a particular unit, maybe that is an industrial unit or maybe a command area, how the water is being used by that particular unit, and whether this unit is utilizing our water in a sustainable and optimal manner or not. This type of information can be found out only through water auditing space. Irrigation benchmarking, we have large number of irrigation projects in our country. How they are behaving, whether they are behaving properly or not, whether the efficiency is up to mark or not. Until and unless we have a benchmark to say, okay, my project is performing at this level, but the benchmark is little bit above or little bit low. So which are the points on which the project is not performing? So benchmarking is a index-based database maintenance, so that one can find out what are the areas which needs attention. So through benchmarking, we are basically trying to get into these aspects. So as I said, a lot has been done, but still a lot is to be done. So all the units, everyone has to support the water resources development so that the water resources in our country could be optimally and sustainably. Unless we do so, the problem of water stress cannot be solved. So there is a need that all the stakeholders should come up, should behave in a systematic manner so that we could utilize the country's resources in optimal manner and demands of everyone can be addressed. So this is basically the thing. So now floor is open for question by everyone if they want to.
Yeah, hi sir. Good morning. Myself Rajiv, and I thank you, sir, for your valuable input and very detailed discussions. Sir, my question is regarding the water audit. You significance that CW is also focusing or recommended industries or public sector to do the water audit is to reduce the load on the groundwater and the resources. So how we are motivating or setting the target to enhance the knowledge about the water audit credibility means people are doing audits, but